أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أحل لكم صيد البحر وطعامه متاعا لكم وللسيارة وحرم عليكم صيد البر ما دمتم حرما واتقوا الله الذي إليه تحشرون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على خيرة البشر سيدنا مولانا محمد بن عبد الله المبعوث بالحق رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, my brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A continuation of our Quranic studies during this Ramadan. Today we are going to continue from where we stopped yesterday. And yesterday we stopped at verse 95 of the chapter of Mai'da, and today we are going to continue from there. Allah is talking to us about the things that are made lawful to the people in the state of Ihram, those who are ready to perform either Hajj or Umrah. And we know that hunting was made unlawful to them. And Allah, apart from making hunting unlawful to them, in case they have go into hunting, He mentioned things that they need to do as expiation for hunting. And now Allah is telling us the things that He made lawful to them. And He said, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ صَيْدُ الْبَحْرِ. Fishing is now made lawful to them. They can go fishing while in the state of Ihram, and they can actually catch some fish and eat it. وَحِلَّ لَكُمْ صَيْدُ الْبَحْرِ وَطَعَامُهُ. And the seafood is also made lawful to them. مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِلسَّيَّارَةِ. Allah said, I made that lawful to you so that it will be of benefit to you, the people in the state of Ihram, and Sayyara are caravans who are carrying goods for sale, moving from one place to another, so that Allah will make life easier for them. So He said those two things are made lawful for them. وَحُرِّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ صَيْدُ الْبَرِّ. But still Allah is reiterating that hunting on the land is still prohibited for you, مَا دُمْتُمْ حُرُمًا, as long as you are in the state of Ihram, either with Hajj or Umrah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي إِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And you should fear Allah, that one to whom all of you are going to be gathered in the day of judgment. And like we said, and we keep repeating, there is definitely a wisdom behind making something prohibited and making something lawful to Muslims by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the prohibition itself or making something lawful is not resting on that wisdom, right? That wisdom at best you can call it a byproduct. Because the thing is, those wisdom are not mentioned to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Neither are they mentioned to us in most cases by the prophets. It is the ijtihad of ulama, and they can get it right and it may be wrong. So the fact that we have discovered the wisdom, or what we think is the wisdom behind prohibition of a particular thing or making lawful of a particular thing, we should not now make it the central point that this is the reason it is made prohibited, this is the reason it is made lawful, because that thing, that idea that we have arrived at may be disproved in the future, who knows? And by the time we place the religion of Allah on our ideas that can be disproved by someone in the future, this may be the most dangerous thing to do to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah made things prohibited for reasons best known to him. He made things lawful for reasons best known to him. And as far as we, the human beings, are concerned, what describes our life best as a moment is the saying of Allah, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ. O the Prophet of Allah, say that my prayers, my all form of devotions, my life, my death, everything about me belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moment He says something is prohibited, it is prohibited regardless of what you think. The moment Allah says something is lawful, it is lawful regardless of what you think. And if you discover the wisdom behind that, that's a bonus for you, but that shouldn't be the central point, right? So Allah made these things prohibited, and He made some things lawful. So He said, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ صَيْدُ الْبَحْرِ. So hunting and fishing in the sea is lawful, it's made lawful to you. وَطَعَامُهُ, and seafood has different interpretations in this verse. And one of the most prominent is the fact that if you see fish that is dead and floating on the sea, that is what is referred to as ta'amahu, the food of seafood. But it can be other forms of animals that live in the sea apart from the major known one, which is fish, and any other plants that are in the sea that are eatable. It can be what is referred to here by wata'amu, seafood. These things are made lawful to you, mata'an lakum, for your enjoyment, to al-sayyara, and enjoyment of the caravan who are moving from one place to another with businesses. So hurrima alaykum saydul berri, and hunting in the land is still prohibited for you, ma dumtum huruma, as long as you are in the state of ihram. And Allah saying wattaqullah here is drawing our attention, because in the previous verse Allah mentioned that, look, these things that you can possibly hunt may be very close to you. This praise may be very close to you, so close that you can just extend your hand and catch one, so close to you that you can just extend your spear and choke one, but still is prohibited. There's nothing you can do about it. It's prohibited. You can't do this. And that is an epitome of trial, when you are being tried with something, and that something is brought so close to you and so easy to do. It's the easiest thing you can do, but at the same time you are told not to do it. The only thing that will stop you from doing that is if you have an internal mechanism that is stopping you from doing that. But if it is as a result of the lack of legality of faith, probably you may not be caught, right? And the moment you realize that you're not going to be caught, then probably you would go ahead and do it. That is the reason you need an internal mechanism to stop you from doing that, an internal mechanism that serves as a control, an internal control for you. And that is why immediately after ma dumtum huruma comes wattaqullah, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being conscious of Allah now becomes your internal control, the internal mechanism that stops you from making your moves, right? And this verse and the previous one are actually applicable in our lives today. We live a life under democracies with all freedoms guaranteed and liberties provided and all of that. You can be able to do so many things, including things that Allah said are not lawful to you. And when you find yourself living under democracy with all liberties and freedoms and all of that, that is the epitome of trial for you to prove whether you are really a good Muslim or a bad one. You are very few clicks away from pornography, for example. You are a few signatures away from some corrupt practices that would allow you to make some money if you're working in the government, especially you're working in a position whereby you can approve contracts, you can approve some purchases. You are a few signatures away from making a hell lot of money. Very easy for you to do, and you have all the people around you that will support you. All you need to do is just to buy them. Easy to do, right? You work as a university professor. You're just few marks away from having each and every girl that you want to have in the university, most especially in our countries where many bad things like this go unchecked, right? So these are real trials, and I want to see the kind of person you are. Are you that kind of person that when you cannot afford it, you will say it's because I'm God conscious? Or are you the kind of person that you would still not do it even if you can? The fact that it's easy for you would not make you do it, right? And that is what taqullah, be God conscious. That is what is going to support you to do that. الذي إليه تحشرون, and this is another element that will help you be among the ones who are God conscious, because you know that إليه تحشرون, everyone from amongst you is going to be gathered right in front of Allah in the day of judgment. And as long as you are a believer, you believe in God, you believe in the day of judgment, you know that no matter how long it takes, this thing is going to happen. That day is going to come. No one can stop it from coming, right? And um, you are going to be someone in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are going to give account of the way you live your life on this earth. You are going to be asked about all the details, everything, like everything you've ever done. You're going to be asked, and you are going to give accounts. As long as you know that that day is coming, then you would have to be careful and have to be God conscious. And as long as you're God conscious, then that will help you not to do things simply because you can, as long as those things are not allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. جعل الله الكعبة البيت الحرام قياما للناس والشهر الحرام والهدي والقلائد ذلك لتعلموا أن الله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وأن الله بكل شيء عليم. جعل الله الكعبة البيت الحرام قياما للناس. Allah has made the Kaaba, the sacred house, standing for the people, and has sanctified the sacred months and the sacrificial animals and the garlands by which they are identified. This is so you may know that Allah knows what is in the heavens and what is in the earth, and that Allah is knowing of all things, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kaaba is sacred, and Ashur al-Hurum, the months are also sacred, including Zulqa'dah, Zulhajj, Al-Muharram, and Rajab. They are all sacred. You cannot commit things, even things that are lawful. Some of these things are still made unlawful to you. Like, for example, you are not allowed to wage war, even in a situation whereby waging war is lawful, because it's not in all situations that waging war is lawful. So even in the situations whereby waging war is lawful, you're not allowed to do it in any of the 4 months. You're not allowed to do it around Kaaba, right? And hunting is, generally speaking, allowed in Islam, but you're not allowed to do it around Kaaba. You are not allowed to do it within those months. If you are around Kaaba in those months and in the state of Ihram, right? 3 things have to come together. You're not allowed to do it because of the sacredness of the month and the sacredness of that place, right? Al-Hadiya, also made sacred when someone brings an animal for sacrifice around Kaaba during Hajj. Even if you have a problem with that person and you realize probably that person is owing you a ram, and you've seen him with a ram that he brings for Hadi, you can't go confiscate, seize that animal from him, because that animal is now sacred. You would have to wait until after you have to wait until after the state of Ihram is over, and then you go for your whatever it is that that person is owing you. فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. Anyone who is in the state of Ihram cannot say some lewd words and cannot commit some acts of lewdness and cannot even argue because he's in the state of Hajj, right? So you can't confiscate that thing because that person is at the time bringing that animal for sacrifice, and that animal is considered sacred animal. All qala'id are the gallons by which those sacrifice animals are identified. So even the gallons themselves are sacred, and there's nothing you can do about it. ذلك لتعلموا أن الله يعلم ما في السماوات والأرض. This is admonition for you so that you know that Allah knows everything in the heavens and everything on and inside the earth. وأن الله بكل شيء عليم, and Allah is knowing of all things. He is full of knowledge. He knows everything. اعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب وأن الله غفور رحيم. اعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب وأن الله غفور رحيم. Know that Allah is severe in penalty and that Allah is forgiving and merciful. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom Allah bringing this seemingly you can say contradictory features of him subhanahu wa ta'ala. His iqab is very severe. As his punishment, his penalty is very severe. But at the same time, he is forgiving, he is merciful, right? And that is to draw attention to the fact that, look, no matter how bad, how worse you think your transgression are, you should still be thinking about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're likely to get it, right? You shouldn't close the door for yourself because Allah did not close it for you. So you shouldn't despair. Allah says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. O you, my servants, that transgressed too much in your life, you should not despair from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here, another thing that should draw our attention is the fact that when Allah is using the word shadid, the severity, he did not use it to describe himself, but he used it to describe his punishment. But when he is using Ghafur and Rahim, most forgiving and most merciful, he is using these beautiful words to describe himself, not to describe anything, right? Shadidul iqab, inna Allah shadidul iqab. So it is the iqab that is shadid. Like in anna Allah ghafurun rahim, himself he is the one who is ghafur and who is rahim. So regardless of how badly someone conducts himself, we should still be thinking of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وما على الرسول إلا البلاغ والله يعلم ما تبدون وما تكتمون. ما على الرسول إلا البلاغ. We should also be aware that not upon the messenger is responsibility except for notification. That is the only responsibility of the messenger. The fact that we refuse the messenger, we denied his message, is not going to harm him in any way. It is going to harm us, we that refused him or deny his message, right? If a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spent 1,000 years calling people and only one person responded positively to his message, that is not going to harm him in any way. The fact that he's insisting that we should listen is because of his mercy, the mercy that he has, which is borrowing from the Allah's mercy. He's showing the same kind of mercy. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ. It pains him any time a bad thing befalls you. Harisun alaykum. He is very, very keen in you benefiting from his message. Bil mu'minina ra'ufur rahim. He's very merciful with the believers, right? So he doesn't want any bad thing to befall us, right? But at the same time, his responsibility ends at the point extend that message. As long as he has given a notification, Allah has sent me, and this is the message he has given me, um, that you should bear witness that no one worthy of worship except him, and that I'm his messenger, and you should establish prayers and give charity and fast Ramadan and perform Hajj if you have the means to do that. As long as he has done that, that's over. His message is delivered, his responsibility is over. But the rest left with us, whether we want to be part of this mercy of Allah that is being distributed, or we don't want to be. It's up to us, right? So we shouldn't be thinking that if you do anything, he stand to benefit from your actions. No, you stand to benefit from that action. Wallahu ya'lamu ma tubdun. Allah knows that which you are which you are revealing. Wa ma taktumun, and Allah knows that which you are concealing, right? Whether you actually don't believe in him, but you're just hypocrite. You don't want to say that because you are afraid of the consequences, or you are still doubting in your mind, you're thinking, I don't know what to do, whether to believe in him or not. Probably he's telling the truth. I don't want to die and be raised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't realize that this man was telling the truth. Whatever it is that is going on in your mind, Allah knows, and Allah is fully aware of that. So you better have sincerity of purpose in whatever you are doing, because you can't hide it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that is that's a point at which every human being should realize how powerless we are, right? I mean, when you have a God that knows what is going on in your mind, in your heart, but as long as you did not use it to harm his religion, he's not going to judge you based on what you feel or what you acted upon, right? That is the point at which we should realize how powerless we are and how powerful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And whatever it is that you're doing, I mean, it's futile to think that you can get away with anything, because you can't. If Allah wants to judge us by what we feel, what we think about, then no one is going to survive. No one. Everyone is going to be doomed, right? But Allah does not judge us based on what we feel. Allah judges us based on which of the feelings did we choose to act upon, right? So this is like giving us a chance to choose carefully which of the feelings we want to act upon, and then we act upon them, and then Allah will reward us, even though He knows that we have all the feelings that might be bad or even very bad, but because we decided not to act upon them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite mercy decide to just look the other way and reward us for these good feelings that we've acted upon. فاتقوا الله قل لا يستوي الخبيث والطيب ولو أعجبك كثرة الخبيث واتقوا الله يا أولي الألباب لعلكم تفلحون قل لا يستوي الخبيث والطيب. O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, tell them that evil would never be equal good. وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. Even if the abundance of the evil impresses you, right? But at the same time, it can never be as good. One good, 1,000 evil, that good is still better than the 1,000 evil. In fact, one bad thing about evil is that the more the number, then the worse it becomes, because the evilness is multiplying, right? So the more the number, the worse it becomes, right? And you see, when we look at the philosophy of Quran, we realize that in most cases, number is not equal to rightness, it's not equal to goodness, it's not equal to positivity, right? If you are to follow the whims of the majority of the people on this earth, you would go astray, because they would lead you astray. right? So in most cases, the word majority is used in the Holy Quran. You realize that the description that follows is a negative one. So in most cases, the majority is not necessarily right. That doesn't mean that the majority may not be right from time to time. But what it means is that it's not a criteria. The fact that you have a majority of people by the side, it doesn't mean that that is the right one, right? One with God is the majority, right? So that is what Allah is drawing our attention to. That you see evil, you see goodness, go by the goodness, even if it is single. It's one person, but the majority are evil. Leave them alone. Leave them. Go with the good one. Forget about the number. The number is never a criteria. The goodness is what is the criteria. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Oh, you people of Al-Bab. Al-Bab is the plural of Lub, and Lub is mind, but um, using the sense in which Quran uses the word Lub. In most cases, you realize that Allah uses the word Lub in the Holy Quran to describe not just the intellectual mind, but the spiritual mind, the believing mind. The mind that is closer to believing in Allah than the mind that is closer to just being intellectual, and that's it. Right? So it's like Allah is talking to the people that have the mind that is thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that knows what it is doing, right? That have a realization of what is good and what is bad. That is the kind of mind that Allah is talking to here. He said, "Fattaqullaha." Be God conscious, Ya ulil albab. Oh, you people of lub, people of the mind that is remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la'allakum tuflihun, because you know that that is your way for salvation. You know this, and Allah is talking to you about this because you know this. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم وإن تسألوا عنها حين ينزل القرآن تبد لكم عفى الله عنها والله غفور حليم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O you who believe, لا تسألوا عن أشياء, do not ask about things in tubdalakum tasukum. If those things were to be explained to you, you will feel bad about them. وَإِن تَسْأَلُوا عَنْهَا حِينَ يُنَزَّلُ الْقُرْآنِ. But if you are to ask about those things when Quran was being revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tubdalakum, in that case, those things will be explained to you. Afallahu anha, and Allah will forgive you for asking about those things. Wallahu Ghafur Rahim, Allah is most forgiving and most forbearing. There are a number of opinions, scholarly opinions about the historical context of this verse, but obviously from the content of the verse, you realize that Allah is warning people, those that are around Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about asking questions, asking too many questions, right? But does that mean that Islam is prohibiting people from asking questions about religion? That is not the case, but Islam generally has a criteria for the kind of questions you should ask and the kind of questions you should not ask. You don't just ask questions for curiosity purposes. You don't just ask questions to test someone's knowledge. You don't just ask questions to test someone's prowess in things, but you ask questions. But this I'm talking from the religious perspective, asking questions within the religion and about the religion. You don't just ask questions to test, but you ask questions to benefit, right? And the usul al-fiqh qaida, that's the rule of usul al-fiqh, says أي مسألة لا ينبني عليها عمل فأحسن ما يقال فيها أنها عبث. Any question that will not help you, the answer of which will not help you to improve on a particular action, the answer of which you cannot act upon, the best thing you can say about it is that that question is a joke. That is the qaida. That is the rule in usul al-fiqh. So whatever question you are asking about religion, that question, the answer of the question has to help you to perfect a particular action. If it has nothing to do with any action, it's just what is called al-asfu zihni, intellectual acrobatics. So those kind of questions are not allowed to be asked within the religion. It's not just to know, but it's to act, it's to do something. So any question, the answer of any question that is useful has to produce an action. If it doesn't produce an action, then that is not the kind of question that I welcome, right? So looking at the historical context, you will see different scholarly opinions from Islamic scholars. One of them is saying there was time when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked too many questions by the people around him, to the extent that that even made him, that upset him, and he was a little bit angry, and he climbed the minbar and gave a sermon and even said, "There's nothing you will ask me that I will not provide the answer for." And today is the worst. This is the day that I have seen the best of the best of good and the worst of the worst of bad things. Allah has just projected the Jannah and the Nar for me, and I have seen what is in Jannah and have seen what is in Nar on this wall, just like a projector. Allah showed it to him. And then one person, and then Prophet said, even if you're asking me about your parents, you're doubtful about your parents, ask me, I'll tell you. And then someone stood up and said, "O Prophet of Allah, who is my father?" This is someone whose lineage was contested by people around him, and he wasn't sure who his father was. And then he asked, "O Prophet of Allah, who is my father?" And he said, "Abuka Huzafa. Huzafa is your father." And then Umar ibn al-Khattab stood up very quickly to save the situation and said, "Radina billahi rabban wa bil islami dinan wa bi Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Rasula." We believe that Allah is our Lord and Islam is our religion, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is our prophet. So he saved the situation with that. And another narration about the historical context of this verse is that when the verse وَأَذِّنْ فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ was revealed, the verse that was talking about Hajj. Allah said, call upon people about Hajj, and they will come to you from all nooks and crannies. And then Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam climbed the member and called people and said, "Inna Allah aftarada alaykum al-Hajj," that Allah made performing Hajj obligatory upon you. And then someone asked him, "Akullu amin ya Rasulullah?" Is it an annual basis? And then the Prophet kept quiet. And he asked again, "Akullu amin ya Rasulullah?" And the Prophet kept quiet. And then he asked again. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam answered him, and he said, "لو قلت نعم لوجبت ولو وجبت لما قدرتموه ولو تركتموه لكفرتم." If I had said yes, it would have been obligatory every year. And if it becomes obligatory every year, you wouldn't have been able to do it. And if you left it, then you would have become kafirs, you'd have become unbelievers. So stop asking things, because the thing is that Allah is the Mushirri', and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks on behalf of Allah. وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. So if you ask about something, and once the Prophet gives the answer, then it becomes the Sharia. It becomes part of the religion, right? So you don't ask things like this, because if you ask things like those, and it will become a problem, because you may not be able to do it. And the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this context is that إن الله فرض فرائض فلا تنتهكوها وحد حدود فلا تعتدوها وسكت عن أشياء رحمة لكم بغير نسيان فلا تسألوا عنها. that Allah made some things obligatory. Do not joke with those things. And Allah made some hudud and some barricades. Do not jump off the fence. وَسَكَتَ عَنْ أَشْيَاءٍ, that is the point here. وَسَكَتَ عَنْ أَشْيَاءَ رَحْمَةً لَكُمْ. And he kept quiet about some things because he is being merciful with you, because of his mercy. فَلَا تَسْأَلُوا عَنْهَا, do not ask about them. وَسَكَتَ عَنْ أَشْيَاءَ رَحْمَةً لَكُمْ بِغَيْرِ نِسْيَانٍ. He has been quiet about some things because of his mercy, not because he has forgotten. فَلَا تَسْأَلُوا عَنْهَا, do not ask about those things. Because once you ask about those things, Allah gives you an answer, then it becomes obligatory or it becomes haram, and then you fail to do it, and then it becomes a problem on you and other people. And even if Allah did not reveal anything and the Prophet ﷺ says something, then it becomes obligatory and you can't do it, and it becomes a problem to you and to other people. Right? So these are some of the historical contexts. And another weak narration, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari actually narrated this and mentioned that in his opinion that this is the weakest one. He said that people were asking Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Bahira, Sa'iba, Wasila, Ham. These are some forms of sacrifices that the Arabs were giving to their idols before Islam, and people were asking Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about those things. And those who hold this opinion, the reason they hold this opinion is because immediately after this verse, the verse that comes immediately after this is talking about those topics. So they said, actually people were asking him about those things, those forms of sacrifices, was wasila, ham, sa'iba, and bahira. So they say that is the reason, but this opinion is actually the weakest of the opinions. But whatever the case may be, that is the way people should ask in Islam, and there are ways that you should not ask. If you go through the Holy Quran, you will learn something about the verses in the Quran that begin with Yas'alunak, Yas'alunak, Yas'alunak. There are several verses in the Holy Quran that begins with this Yas'alunak. And there's something to learn from those, right? According to the Quran scientists, that immediately after Yas'alunak is either they are asking about something that has to do with ibadat, their forms of worship, or they are asking about something that has to do with sunan al-kawniyya, sciences, astronomy, astrology, things like this, things that might not have immediate benefit, right? So anywhere you see Yas'alunak and what follows is something that has to do with ibadah, something that has to do with a form of worship, something that will require action after getting the answer. It is the Sahaba asking Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But anywhere you see Yas'alunak, they are asking you, and what follows is something that has nothing to do with ibadah. It is Ahlul Kitab who lives with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca or Medina. In Medina, they were asking him. For example, يسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذى فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن فإذا تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. They are asking you about a period, about the blood of period, and tell them that this is Azza, right? And that you should give your wives chance when they are in that period of time, right? And do not come close to them, and the ahkam followed, right? What you need to do followed. يسألونك ماذا ينفقون. They are asking you about the kind of charity that they should give. قل العفو. And then he explained to them that this is what you need to give out. يسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل ما أنفقتم من خير فللوالدين المقدار. What should they give? He said, whatever you can afford to give to your parents, to your relatives, and all of that. يسألونك عن الشهر الحرام قتال فيه. They are asking you about the sacred months, whether they can wage wars in those, right? And he has answered them. But when you hear things like يسألونك عن الأهلة, يسألونك عن الأهلة, right? They are asking you about the moon. Why does it appear so small in the beginning and keeps growing and growing and growing? Right? This has absolutely nothing to do with worshiping. They are just asking for curiosity reasons. Right? But at the same time, Allah has done something that is called in Balagha Uslubul Hakim. You ask about something, but the answer given to you is something that is of more benefit to you than the answer you are anticipating. You are anticipating the answer to be, okay, this is the astrological and astronomical reason why they appear very small because of the relationship between them and Earth and Sun and the movement and all of this. This is the answer they were expecting. But instead, Allah said, يسألونك عن الأهلة قل هي مواقيت للناس والحج. So the reason you see them like that is because Allah wants to give people a sense of timing so that they would know when to do their acts of worship, redirecting their mind to something that is more useful, more beneficial to them, because Allah is trying to teach us what kind of questions we should be asking and what kind of questions we should avoid asking. Quran, the whole of Quran, everything in Quran is teaching and teaching and teaching, because Allah is making us the best of the ummah. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You are the best of the ummah that are actually choosing to be of benefit to other people, right? يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم. O you who believe, do not ask about things that if explained to you, you are going to feel bad about them. وإن تسألوا عنها, but if you still ask about other things, حين ينزل القرآن تبد لكم, things that you did not quite understand their explanation, and Quran is being revealed to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those things will be explained to you. Afallahu anha, Allah doesn't have problem with that, right? Allah doesn't have problem with you asking about things that are of benefit to you. Wallahu ghafurun halim. Allah is most forgiving and most forbearing, subhanahu wa ta'ala. قد سألها قوم من قبلكم ثم أصبحوا بها كافرين. قد سألها قوم من قبلكم ثم أصبحوا بها كافرين. Some people before you, and that is Ahlul Kitab, have asked their prophet similar questions, and they turn into disbelievers as a result of their questions. This verse says some people before you ask similar questions, made some Islamic Quranic scholars to think that, okay, the kind of questions Allah is talking about in the previous verse, they have to do with asking prophets to bring ayat, to bring proofs that they are prophets, right? Because these are the questions that the Ahlul Kitab kept asking their prophets, and which actually turned them into disbelievers. And we would see towards the end of this chapter, when Allah is talking to us about Bani Israel, specifically the Christians, when they asked Jesus, أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء تكون لنا عيدا لأولنا وآخرنا وآية منك وارزقنا وأنت خير الرازقين. That Jesus should ask his God to bring a dining table full of food and everything from the heaven to come to earth, so that they will sit down and eat and have a feast, right? They are asking not just to eat, but they are asking for a sign, a proof that he's actually a man of God, that he can ask God to do things that are beyond human imagination, right? That are beyond the normal way things happen in life. Right. So because of this verse, some people before you have asked similar things, made some scholars to think about another historical context for the previous verse, that actually the kind of questions people were asking Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, questions that have to do with proof that you are prophets, prove it. Give us a sign. Give us an ayah that will prove to us that you are actually a prophet. And hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sahih hadith from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this context says, وَإِنَّ مَا أَهْلَكَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ كَثْرَةُ مَسَائِلِهِمْ وَاخْتِلَافِهِمْ عَلَى أَنْبِيَائِهِمْ. So one of the things that led the people before you to go astray is because they asked too many questions. وَاخْتِلَافِهِمْ عَلَى أَنْبِيَائِهِمْ. The word ikhtilaf has several meanings. It can mean that they disagree with their prophets, but because of the ta'addi, harf al-ta'addi, ta'addad bi'ala, when a verb extends to an object using an article, it can change the meaning of that verb in Arabic language. اختلافهم مع أنبيائهم would mean something different from اختلافهم على أنبيائهم. اختلف فلان على فلان. It means he goes to him too frequently until he disturbs him, which is different from اختلف معه. He has disagreed with him. Right? So therefore in this hadith, وَاخْتِلَافِهِمْ عَلَىٰ أَنْبِيَائِهِمْ, it means they keep going back to them until they really disturb them. So they ask them too many questions and disturb them too much. That is what the hadith means. Right? And this hadith is supporting the idea that this verse is given. Some people ask about those things before you, and that turned them into disbelievers. ما جعل الله من بحيرة ولا سائبة ولا وصيلة ولا حام ولكن الذين كفروا يفترون على الله الكذب وأكثرهم لا يعقلون. ما جعل الله من بحيرة ولا سائبة ولا وصيلة ولا حام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make part of his religion Bahira, the sacrifices. He didn't make this sacrifice part of his religion. Bahira, the sacrifice of Bahira, the sacrifice of Sa'iba, the sacrifice of Wasila, the sacrifice of Ham. ولكن الذين كفروا يفترون على الله الكذب. But those disbelievers are the ones who invented these lies and invented these sacrifices. يفترون على الله الكذب. They invented them against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أكثرهم لا يعقلون. Most of them are not reasonable. That is the reason they keep inventing things that Allah did not ask them to invent. Right? What is Bahira? What is Sa'iba? What is Wasila? What is Ham? There are forms of sacrifices that they give some reasons. Bahira, for example, is any animal, whether a camel or cow, that give birth to 5 and more, or through 5 and more pregnancies. Successful delivery of 5 or more pregnancies. Once an animal achieves that, they will say that, okay, this animal is no longer halal for us to eat. We can't slaughter it and eat. We can't use it for transportation, either to carry us or to carry our goods. And they will give it a sign, right, so that people will know it. What they do is that they put a sign on the ears of that animal, right, and they call it Bahira. And the second one is Sa'iba. Sa'iba is a particular animal they put aside for God. And how do they do that? If they have a need, or they have something that they have a wish, right, they will go and pray to their idols and say that if you make my wish come true, I'm putting this animal aside for you. And this is called in Arabic an-nadhar, right? And that is what they do. And then that animal is called Sa'iba. Like they have someone who travel and they no longer hear about him. They are wishing that the person comes back. So they go to the idols and say that we promise that if you bring my brother back, you bring my son back, you bring my father back, you bring my uncle back, this animal is for you, another, and it is called wasila. And the sacrifice number 3 is called Sa'iba. And the animal number 3 is called wasila. Wasila is, is taking from the word al-wasl, when you meet someone, right? So when you become close to someone, that's al-wasl. Well, that is where the word is taken from. What happened there is that when they have an animal that is pregnant, they will wait. If the animal gives birth to a male animal, that male is for them. When it gives birth to female, that female is for God, right? But what if it gives birth to twin, male and female? They will say that, okay, now one of them saved the other. One of the two twins giving birth to saved the other. And that is what is called wasila. Therefore, the mother that gave birth would not be sacrificed for God because the children, one of the children saved the other. And that is called wasila. And the final one is ham. Ham is normally a very big camel, true, and the progeny of which up to 10. Like he has either 10 between children and grandchildren, right? Once he has up to 10 in his progeny, then they will now put that camel aside for God. They are not going to use it as transportation, either to carry themselves on it or to put their goods on it. They are not going to do any of those things. They will just put it aside for their idols, right? So these are the kind of sacrifices that they create for themselves. They invented, and even though Allah did not ask them to do that, but they invented them. They are inventing lies against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said most of them are not reasonable. This is the reason why they find it very easy to do these stupid things, right? فإذا قيل لهم تعالوا إلى ما أنزل الله وإلى الرسول قالوا حسبنا الله حسبنا ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا أولو كان آباؤهم لا يعلمون شيئا ولا يهتدون. وإذا قيل لهم تعالوا إلى ما أنزل الله. Anytime you tell them, anytime anyone tells them to come to what is revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his prophet, قالوا حسبنا ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا. They will say, no, what we find our fathers, our forefathers doing is enough for us. أولو كان آباؤهم لا يعلمون شيئا ولا يهتدون. Don't they know that their parents are themselves ignorant and misguided people? Don't they know that? They should know that, right? So this is anything that we hear in the Quran, stories Quran is giving us that people did this, people did that. We already know that Allah is not telling us that just to hear stories, but to learn something, right? Everyone knows this, but probably one additional thing that we should also know is the fact that it's not just a lesson that happened in that particular time that matters. Allah is giving us a story that can serve as a prototype for how human beings behave generally, right? So each and every story in the Quran is a prototype of people's behaviors around the world, across time and space, right? So it's a very normal thing for people to keep doing stupid things because that is the way their parents were doing those things. And one thing that we don't normally pay attention to is that their parents may be doing something and be saved with that thing, but the children will not be saved by that thing because the parents tried as much as they could to reach the limit of knowledge at their own time. But at your own time, you need to keep going. You can't stop at where your parents stop can be the marker of perfection in their own time. But in your own time, that cannot be true, right? So the fact that they followed their parents, as they said, Hasbuna ma wajadna alayhi aba'ana. What we find from our parents is enough for us. The fact that they said that is not what matters. What matters is the fact that they did not realize how ignorant and misguided their parents were, right? Because if their parents were actually knowledgeable and guided people, it would have been a very good thing for them to say that what we found from our parents is enough for us, right? Because the guidance and the knowledge of their parents would guide them, and once they are guided by those things, they will probably keep going. And what would describe them in that situation would be another verse in the Holy Quran that says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُم بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُم. Those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their progeny follow their footsteps, we would now put them together with their progeny. Even if their progeny did not do as much, we would still elevate them to the position of their parents, right? That would have been the verse that would describe them. But the problem here is that the parents that they are following are not وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, right? They are some stupid, ignorant people. Right? They know nothing. That is what Allah said. And on top of that, they are misguided. Not just that they don't know, but they are at the same time misguided. How can you follow someone who's misguided and expect to be guided? You can't. It's not going to work. And how can you follow someone who's ignorant and think that you're going to be knowledgeable? It's not going to work, right? So that is their problem. يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم إلى الله مرجعكم جميعا فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم. O you who believe, take responsibility of yourselves. لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم. The misguided one will not harm you if you are guided. إلى الله مرجعكم. To God you are going to return, all of you, فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون, and He's going to inform you about everything that you've been doing in His life. Right? Interpreting this ayah can be a little bit tricky because upon time you would hear people saying that alaykum anfusakum, and therefore I will just take care of myself. Right? As long as Allah told me that la yadurrukum man dalla idha ihtadaytum, anyone who is misguided will not harm me as long as I'm guided. So have no business what's happening in the society. I'll just keep to myself. Right? Well, there are situations and contexts that you might need to do that, to keep to yourself and stay at home, just like in the situation that we are in right now, COVID-19, the pandemic, and the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam talk about al-qa'id khayrun min al-qa'im wal-qa'im khayrun min al-sa'i wa-sa'i khayrun, to the end of the hadith and all of that. But that is not the context that this particular verse is talking about, because if you look at the verse, realize that from the beginning to the end, the verse is addressing the mu'minun in plural form, not in singular form. Ya ayyuhal lazina amanu, not ya ayyuhal mu'min. Alaykum anfusakum, not alayka nafsak. La yadurrukum, not la yadurruk. Man dalla iza ihtadaytum, not iza ihtadayt. Right? So Allah is talking to mu'minun, to believers, as a community, not as individuals, right? Allah is not addressing mu'minun as individuals, that you should keep to yourself, and as long as you're guided, no one is going to harm you. No, that is not the case. You should keep to yourself as a community, because any misguided person cannot harm you if you stick together as a community of believers. That is what the verse is talking about. أيها الذين آمنوا, O you who believe, عليكم أنفسكم. Keep to yourself and take care of yourselves as a group of people within a community. لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم. As long as you are guided as a community, those who are misguided will not harm you. إلى الله مرجعكم. And to Allah, all of you are going to return. فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. And there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to inform you about everything that you have been doing. And we are going to stop here, inshallah, and continue tomorrow from where we stop. Allahumma ahdina fi man hadayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif anna bi rahmatika sharra ma qadayt, fa innaka taqdi bil haqqi wa la yubda alayk. إنه لا يعز من عاديت ولا يذل من واليت تبارك ربنا وتعالى. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تهون به بيننا وبين معاصيك، ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا، ومتعنا اللهم بأسمائنا وأبصارنا وقواتنا أبدا ما أحييتنا، واجعله الوارث منا، واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا، وانصرنا على من عادانا، ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا، ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم ربنا زكي نفوسنا وآتها تقواها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم ربنا زكي نفوسنا وآتها تقواها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم ربنا زكي نفوسنا وآتها تقواها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي الذي يجدونه مكتوبا عندهم في التوراة والإنجيل، يأمرهم بالمعروف وينهاهم عن المنكر ويحل لهم الطيبات ويحرم عليهم الخبائث ويضع عنهم إصرهم والأغلال التي كانت عليهم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.